So everybody, thanks for coming. We got a lot of places covered here, like from Canada, right out west. I see a bunch of people that I get the opportunity to work with when I go out. I'm heading back out to Edmonton in another week and a half or so. But we got Saskatoon in here. We got there's from out west, Calgary, Edmonton, Vancouver, and then we got a couple people from the States, and then there's obviously we got Yonks from New Zealand, which is awesome. He comes and he always has great questions, which opens up all coaches' minds and stuff like that. We got Romania, France, Germany. If anyone comes in late, if they messed up with the timing, I'll let them in. But this is Matt Korthuis, guys. Matt and I, we've known each other now for over, I want to say we're getting on close 6-7 years maybe. We met online, and I think what Matt, the reason why I'm so passionate about sending information is people like Matt and ex-players like Matt that have all this built up knowledge, and we just want to share it so that whether it's going to the coaching level, the parents level, the player level, more specifically the players, when we're talking about development, I gravitate to people like Matt and people that have a wealth of knowledge. And same goes with all the coaches that I've had the opportunity to meet with and work with out there. It's all about sharing information, and you know that it's difficult because sometimes you'll get your odd individual who just has that mentality of it's my way or the highway, and they don't want to share because they feel like the way they do things is the best way to do it. But I feel like sharing is the most. So today's theme is about communication, and that doesn't mean that if you have a question about something else, whether it's about mindfulness, positive thought processes, technical stuff with shooting and scoring or skating or stick handling or whatever it is, I'm sure we have enough people in here that can contribute to getting an answer. And if you do have a question, drop it, do the chat thingamajiggy. I'll do my best to monitor that while the information is going on, and or put your hand up or something, or do a signal, and we'll get things going for sure. So without wasting any more time, Matt Korthuis, take it away. We're talking about communication in hockey.
Yeah, thanks, Timmy, and thanks for having me here. Actually, it's a funny story how me and Tim met. We were talking about, putting his website together, or he was putting his website together. I was coming back from a trip out west with my family and my in-laws and my young son, and it was fun, but I wouldn't call it a vacation. It was actually a bit of a nightmare by the end of it. So I just randomly decided to stay at my brother's house for a couple of nights to do some quote unquote work. And Timmy just happened to be rolling through town. He hit me up. He's like, I'm in Edmonton as well. We met for a couple of tea, like a couple of older gentlemen do. And it was an awesome conversation. So we've been kind of going back and forth, working on some different things ever since. For myself at this point in time, I work with hockey players exclusively on the mindset and mental game side of things. I started out in the skills world, and I slowly gravitated towards doing this for a couple of reasons, I guess. First of all, players just kept asking me questions about confidence, mindset, communication, all these things. And a quick backstory about myself. I played professionally over in Europe for almost a decade. And at the end of that stretch, I went through a really tough spell with, my mental health, my anxiety. And I started to deal with some stuff that I'd never dealt with in my entire life. I had no idea how to deal with it. I just kept it all to myself for, almost a few years before my wife said, hey, listen, if you don't get help with this, I'm not sure what I'm going to do because I can't help you. And so finally I reached out, I got help, and it was a turning point in my life. And I said, a few months into that period, that once I get better, once I get past this, I just want to help people to make sure they never go through, what I went through. And so it led me to kind of do what I'm doing today. And I absolutely love it. And, I noticed a lot of players need help with this kind of stuff. And the theme of the communication came up just because lately I've been talking to so many hockey parents, and so many of them tell me, like, my kid's confidence is absolutely destroyed. He has no confidence. He won't make plays. He won't do this. He's holding back. And I'm like, well, why is that? And I'm not saying this is all the time and always the case, but often it comes back from a coach benching them, screaming at them, reaming them out. The player trying to make a play, it doesn't go the way they want it to. Sit that kid down on the bench. The kid doesn't know why. And so now he's all confused in his head, but he's also now too intimidated, maybe too young to go and ask the coach, hey coach, what's going on here? So he's kind of playing that game of like, what do I do? I don't know what to do now. And now they're hesitating. That's why they're holding back. And I always say that, confidence comes from clarity. And if we have no clarity, it's hard to have confidence. If we're second guessing ourselves, if we're always doubting ourselves, we're always worried about the guy, standing behind us, it's going to be really difficult to play our best hockey. And I wrote down a quote today. And Timmy, let me know what you think about this quote. I said, benching players without backstory crushes confidence.
100%.
And so what I mean by that is the player goes out there, he tries to make a play, it doesn't work, he comes back to the bench, the coach says, Jimmy, take a seat at the end there, you're done. And Jimmy's like, well, I just tried to make a play, coach. And the coach is like, shut up, just sit down and just wait your turn. And so I feel like there's a moment for coaches to start to think about, could I teach something here before I go right to the benching? Could I try to ask the player, and I'm big on this, like, hey, I know coaches are busy and it's tough because they're trying to manage the bench. They're trying to read the play. They're trying to get the lines out there. But is there a chance in between periods to say, hey, Jimmy, what did you see there? That's what I saw. What did you see? And now we can get that communication going. Now the player can learn. And now that trust starts to get developed, because I think the trust piece is such a big one. Timmy, anything to add there?
Like, one of the things was a player got communication information to them where it's like, okay, I'm bringing you on my team. It's the coach. I'm bringing you on my team. And guess what? You're getting older now. You're turning 14. When you were 10, 11, and 12, and 13, there wasn't too much structure. But you have the ability to play on my team. But now you got to play within a structured system. So this player that could have been a freewheeling forward that would cross over into different lanes and zones and, have success by doing that is now into a system. So that system that the coach has put down to all the players has said, okay, if you're a right winger, I'll let you play, you can stay in your lane from the boards to the dot line, and then you can come across to the middle seam, but you can't go across the other side. And here's little Jimmy, who's like got a really good head of steam up, and he goes all the way over. He's a right winger. He goes to his off wing, and he enters into the zone, and then he comes back, gives a pass, gets it back, scores a goal. So everyone's all happy, but then he gets back to the bench, and the coach is like, hey, you got a goal, but you didn't do the right thing. You broke the system. You're not supposed to do that. Good job on the goal, but you're not allowed to go on that side of the ice. So now little Jimmy's like, well, yeah, that's what I'm used to doing, coach. So that communicative part on how the player can accept being like you said, like being in that structure, or not knowing why he's getting benched because he just scored a goal, because he wasn't sure that, hey, I know I didn't do the system, but hey, I helped the team. But the coach is trying to create a system for all the players. So that's one of the things. I think that's really good. I think it's awesome how we need to, as coaches, we need to have a set way individually to talk to the players and how you do so. Does that make sense?
Let me piggyback off that and bring up a scenario I came across with one of my guys lately, playing professionally over in Europe. He's getting 60 minutes of ice time a game. He's playing some of his best hockey. We're talking back and forth. He hits me up. He's like, Matty, we got a problem. I'm like, what's the problem? He's like, the coach got gassed. I'm like, all right, how's that your problem? Well, they brought on this old school coach who's now put me on the fourth line. I'm getting 4 minutes of playing time a game. And now he's telling me he wants me to be a dump and chase guy. And that's all he wants me to do. Okay. So kind of talking about what you're talking about there. And I'll tell you what I told him to do. And anybody can chime in on this and tell me what you think. And he's like, well, Matty, how do I get off the fourth line? I'm not a fourth line player. I've never played in the fourth line in my life. He's like, what do I do? Well, of course I say, you go talk to him. Right. And so he goes and talks to the guy, and the guy's not receptive to having a conversation. Okay. And this is a problem we come across sometimes with certain coaches. And I think there should always be an open door policy. And I guess we could talk about this maybe a little bit later about how you can approach a coach or how you can approach anybody, because I think the way in which you do so is going to go a long ways in actually having your point heard. Right. If we're bitching and complaining and being down and pouting and being, that guy or that girl or that player, the coach might not want to have that conversation with you. Okay. And so what I told this player to do is, now you have to find the balance between pleasing the coach and, putting yourself in the best opportunity to succeed. Because to get off the fourth line, dumping and chasing all game, that's not going to get you there. And also, I think bigger picture, back to the clarity point, the game of hockey is not just you get the puck and you do one thing every time. You can't just dump and chase because that's what the coach told you to do. If there's ice to take, you have to take the ice. If there's a play to make, you have to make that play. And so for players, how can we, I don't know if many players on the call today, maybe they'll watch the recording. How can you find the balance between, doing what the coach wants you to do and still playing the game that you have to play to be at your best?
Yeah,
and so that's what I'm always trying to figure out. Go ahead, Timmy.
Yeah, that brings me to the coaches out there. I'd be interested to get some feedback from the coaches, and there's all kinds of different ways that this question can be answered. But, if you're a coach out there, you have a player on your team and that player can give more, or you have the idea, or you can see there's something that's keeping your players guarded, or one of your players or two of your players, or whether it's a mix of something, but they can give more. How do you communicate to them that not that you expect more because they can give more, but they can give more? How do you push their buttons to add to their energy? How do you push their buttons or how do you suggest, what suggestions can you make to get these players a little bit more fired up? And then that'll bring us to another communicative discussion on the energy aspect of communication when it comes to having a player who can play gritty with grit, with some sort of sustained energy level, and or the players who should play with grit or should be more physical or more energetic out there to get the information to them or get that message to them. I'd be interested to see what you thought about that.
I'd like to answer that question if you don't mind. I think if you see a player struggling, the best thing I think you could do is start to actually ask them questions. I think far too often, players are getting talked to and told what to do. And I think at a certain point, depending on how that message is being, received, how that message is being given, that message might be falling on deaf ears. So, my recommendation would be let's start to build some trust here. And how we build some trust is we start to ask questions. So you ask the player, what's happening, Jimmy? What's holding you back? What do you feel is keeping you stuck right now? I feel like, you've got a lot to give. So what is it? And he's going to say whatever. And then you could say something as simple as, what do you think your game would look like right now if you started to play with confidence, you were full of self-belief, this, that, and the other thing. And what I've noticed when I do this, especially with younger players, is that, they have a ton to say. They have a lot to say. And I don't think, and this is just from a lot of experience, I guess, talking, that enough players are being asked questions. And so when they get asked questions, they finally someone's asking me how I feel, what I need, what I want, and then boom, everything opens up. And the answer is going to be in there somewhere. So hopefully the player can give you a little bit of an answer. You can start to guide them. You can give them some feedback, and then you can go from there. But it can't always just be a one-way street of do this, do this, do this, do that. Obviously, depending on the age, but I think we're talking about a lot of players here, 12 and up, 10 and up, that can handle a little bit of back and forth. So that would be my suggestion.
Yeah, giving players this, and this is a suggestion to all you coaches out there. When you give players the ability, or you give them some sort of accountability to be able to communicate within each other, whether they're in the leadership group or not, they can have a C or an A, on their jersey, but the players that don't have a C or A can just be a really good leader as well, giving them the green light to say, hey, let's communicate to all the players that here, this is what we expect, or this is what we're looking for. And if you see something different, the coach's eyes can't be everywhere. Just mention it to your teammates. It's okay. You get the green light to communicate within each other, amongst each other. And the funny thing is, a coach's and a team's performance levels, it requires high effective verbal and non-verbal communication. Body language could be so critical, and that's not just to the players aspect. If your body language as a coach and your demeanor is, shoulders down instead of shoulders up all the time, then everyone can recognize that maybe the messaging that you're sending to the players while you're in that demeanor, while you're in that posture, might not be a positive one. And that's what we have to try and do. We got a question here, like, I really like that, there's forms of that communication being verbal and nonverbal, like, Burnsy's saying here, Mikey Burns saying like, hey, how would you make better communication to young players about playing defense, but to also stay offensively involved or just being engaged? He personally finds that it's tough due to either they want to hold down the fort or being out of position. Any advice on how to better communicate that topic when it's, about being defensive and still creating that being offensively involved? And that could be positional too.
Let me jump in here, Timmy, because I know you got a bunch to say, but I just wanted to say something that just came to my mind. I used to work with a guy by the name of Kevin Muller. He's with the Penguins organization now. We did some work together in the past, and he said something that always stuck with me. And he said that good offense starts with good defense. And that's something I'd never thought about before, but it's just a simple way of thinking about it. And I think if you could find some clips that could really demonstrate that example of what I just said there, I think that would go a long way, especially with young players saying, oh, that's where that play started. Because a lot of players, you'll see the highlights, you'll see the Instagram, everything just started in the offensive zone and the guy went top shelf and that's how the goal happened. That ain't how the goal happened. Take it back 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 steps. Somebody pinched a guy off down low, made a good play off the wall. He chipped it. They flew out of the zone. That's where it all stemmed from. So if you could go back and maybe do something like that, I think that might be something to think about. And just popped in my head. I didn't want to forget it. I thought it was a little good insight. So I'll pass it over to you.
Yeah, no, and that's a great question too, Burnsy. Like, I think that, a lot of these technical terminologies nowadays, like a defensive defenseman or an offensive defenseman, or, then there's the defenseman that's in the middle, and this is the big word. It's called the hybrid defenseman, where they have the ability to be defensive and offensive. To me, that's all. There's all kinds of different criteria that makes a player able to make those decisions, and it's all about, we boil it down to that confidence level and that communication between you and that particular player. Also giving them the green light to have more sphere of area, or more area that they can have an influence in, because their confidence level is high. So to answer your question, I would say one of the things that you could do is talk about having the ability to recognize where the puck is. And what makes a good defensive player or a good offensive player is understanding what has happened, like Matt has just said. There's always a starting point and a finishing point to things. And if it's a breakout to a really good transition to accelerating through the neutral zone, then you penetrate, or you're entering the zone with speed, and then all of a sudden, they get the puck knocked off their stick. But there's a positive that's happened there, and it turned into a negative. But we got to figure out how to make sure it finishes in a good way, instead of saying, hey man, like, when you went over the blue line, you had separation from your teammate. You should have supported him within a certain circumference, or whatever it is. And then you can say, hey, you know what? I think that you did a great job starting out in the defensive zone. You were the one that you caused the flush, you caused the change of possession, and that let us go the other way. But next time, we need to try and do it something like this.
I want to just add one more.
Yeah.
Well said, Timmy. I want to add one more thing. I hope I answered your question with my first statement. I reread the question. I might have just gone off and answered my own question there. But I think a lot of that, like holding back and protecting the fort, stems from them not wanting to make a mistake. So it goes back to everything we talked about before. I probably talked to, 50 players in the last month and their parents on a phone call, and 90% of them said, I'm afraid of making mistakes, right? That's a big fear hockey players have. And so if you could let them know that, like, especially at the younger age, I always say this, and it might not be the perfect quote, but I think the players that make the most mistakes the fastest are the ones that are going to develop the quickest. And what I mean by that is that player that's holding back and playing on defensive and hesitating, they're just not putting themselves in enough positions where they're forcing themselves to grow. And that's what I want younger players to realize, is that when you jump up in that play and things don't go the way you want it to go, that's great. Because hopefully you can learn from that. You can adjust. You can do it differently the next time. Because what's going to eventually happen is they're going to jump up in the play. They're going to make a play and something's going to click. They're going to go, holy shit, I can do this. Right. And that's the click moment you want to get with these guys. And if they're never trying it, it's never going to happen. And so give them the freedom, give them the leash to say, hey guys, it's okay if you try to jump up there and it not go your way. That's okay. The forward should be covering for you. And even if not, like worst case scenario, we get scored on, we'll figure it out a little bit better and we'll just move on.
Yeah, one of the biggest things that I'm constantly trying to send messages to younger players and older ones for that matter is that, mistakes are driven by chances. And to me, I've always said that, listen, like, is it okay that, I'm looking at a team or an individual or a coach, and it's okay that you make mistakes. Of course it is. Like, yeah, like, hey, you learn from your mistakes. That's what everybody says. But to me, when a mistake is made based on a structural situation, or that confidence level, the player decided to shoot when they shouldn't have, and its shin pads goes the other way, whatever. But to me, anything can be fixed. How you fix it or how you address the actual fix when you communicate that to your players or your other coaches to send the message to who you need to. Because sometimes nowadays there's like, man, you know what? Like, holy crap! Like, I don't have time to go down. I'm the head coach. I don't have time to go down that into the bench while the game's going on, so I can assess what I need to do. So, hey, associate or assistant coach Bill, can you go down and tell so and so that here's the message that I want to give to them? So that no, I don't think there should be any mistake made with what the message needs to be. But we got to make sure we find a positive out of anything that's been a negative. So that they understand that, hey, this fix or that mistake you made can be fixed by doing this, whether it's immediate, planning for the next practice based on what you saw as a coach, to be able to send that to the individual or the team. And that to me is super important, that you relay that message to your players, or you relay that message to the management team, or whatever it is, ownership, or even the person that's taking the stats in the stands. They're a part of this team's success, so they need to be a part of the communication. Like, that's key. Like, anything to further on that, Maddie, or what do you think?
I think we covered that one pretty good. I want to get to the next question here.
This one here, I would appreciate any tips about dealing with parents who interfere with the
Yeah.
training, gaming
Yeah.
process in not a positive and helpful way.
The parents I kind of work virtually. So the parents I deal with, they sign their kid up for my program. And, most cases I never hear from them again unless they send me some positive feedback or they have a question. But how I would deal with that, I think it goes back to everything we've covered so far. And a big thing I've been trying to work on lately myself is not only trust and communication, but I think boundaries as well, right? So you have to have boundaries. You have to set those up early and often. I had a guy recently trying to be down my throat, in my ear. Hey, what about this? Hey, what about that? Hey, what are you going to do with my son here? What? And I said, hey, sir, with all due respect, you hired me to work with your son. That's exactly what I'm going to do. Okay. If you don't want to hire me to work with your son, then that's fine. Go hire somebody else. But this is exactly how it's going to work. And so I think it's okay to tell that parent, hey, listen, this is my job. This is my team. This is what I'm going to do. If you have any questions and you want to respectfully email them to me or talk to me for 5 minutes, I'm always open to do that. I'm always open to talk to anybody. But if it's not going to be positive, if you're just going to tell me what to do, you know what? Go take your application, go send it into the league. You can be the coach next year. All right. And it's pretty easy. And I think, the way the way I approach people is kind of how the way they approach me. And I always try to give back that same respect. I always start with respect, because if you're not going to do that, the conversation's not going to go the way you want it to go. And so I would always try to keep things positive, keep things respectful, but make sure those boundaries are set. This is how it's going to go. This is how I work. If you don't like that, then maybe your kid can play on a different team. I don't know. At the end of the day, if the boundaries aren't being respected, you gotta put your foot down on some level, I think.
Yeah, 100%. And going back to the chat here, a good buddy of mine here that's been coaching for a long time, and I find that a lot of my friends that I've known in the past have become so passionate about passing on information. Spader here, his name's Glenn Spade. He's out here from Oakville area in Ontario, and he says, he just puts in here, hey man, mistakes equal opportunity. And like that's so truthful when it comes to like tonight I busted my butt to get here because I picked up a new whole organization, and I'm kind of I'm grateful to be able to work with all their players and all their teams. And, it's a pretty good renowned organization. And one of the coaches, what they do is it's like there's a development night, so my job is to communicate to all the coaches, to all the players, and to make sure that the parents understand this is what our process is for my particular involvement is shooting and scoring. So one of the coaches in one of the sessions is like six, and it's pretty cool. It's not like it's the whole team. So I get 6 players for 40 minutes and then another 6 players for 40 minutes. So they split it up. So they're getting a lot of really good attention, some good repetitive motion patterns. So coach comes out, he says, hey, Turkey, I want you to tell me what you think about that. The kid that's in the red shirt with the black helmet. Tell me what you think about him, because he's like, he's not on a team, but I'm thinking of bringing him on the team. So tell me what you think. So I already knew what I thought right away. So I said to him, his name is Bobby. I go, hey, Bobby, I go, that kid will be a good player once his parent leaves the rink. Every time that particular player went and did something in the drill, automatically looked right to the glass where his parent was. And then probably on a higher percentage of the time, like I want to say more than 60% to 70%, every time that player took a shot or did something, all you seen was that the parent was just like behind the glass, like, so, so it's easy to recognize how happy the parent is about their own kid in a non-pressure, non-stressful, fun environment, shooting a puck, and the kid would put it in the breadbasket, but the parent still wasn't happy. So I'm communicating to the coach saying, this player is going to be a great player one day. If the parent, like, there's a connection there, and that's just my visual. So that communication starts with the coach. They need to know about the parent, because sometimes if you're a parent out there, it's okay to have an invested interest in what your kids are doing, but it's also not okay to let them see that you are unhappy with their performance, because that's going to play a big role on their confidence.
Yeah, huge. And there's more questions to get to, Timmy. So I want to make sure I don't ramble on too far, but I wanted to make one point before we get too far ahead of ourselves. We run out of time. I think that parent angle is such a big one, because a lot of the parents I talk to lately, they're self-aware enough to realize that they're part of the problem. And so if that guy's doing that in the stands, guess what he's probably doing in the car? Guess what he's probably doing at home? The communication there is not going to be great. And so if any players end up watching this is a little bit off topic from the question, but I wanted to bring up the topic of self-talk, like how we're talking to ourselves, what we're saying to ourselves during that practice. So instead of that kid looking up into the stands, that's something he's going to have to start to work on. We always should be working on ourselves. It doesn't matter what mom or dad think about our game. Yeah, if they got some good feedback after, they want to let us know what's going on, sure. But it's like, this isn't a conversation about focus, but if we're talking about focus, we want to be playing our best hockey. We can't have our mind up there. We got to be where our feet are. We got to be on the ice in the moment playing, our game. And that's just going to be a long way of having success. And so also for coaches, for parents, for players, how are we talking to ourselves? So that parent should be saying to himself, calm down. This isn't my moment. This is about my kid. If I actually want him to be better, I have to take a step back and allow him to be better with the coaches that I've trusted with my son, with my daughter. So back to that trusting again, the parents have to learn to trust the coach. If it's a bad coach, if the guy doesn't know what he's doing, well, that will come to light. Truth always does. But, I think, I don't know, Timmy, 8 times out of 10, 9 times out of 10, the coaches coaching the teams are doing a pretty good job, and they're just doing their best.
Yeah, 100%. And you know what? That perfectly leads into the next question about how that runs into, like the encouragement of what you do to your players. And so Colin here, this is a phenomenal question. Like, look how he leads into this. It's like, hey, Tim and Matt, encourage my defensemen to take risks and tell them it's okay to make mistakes. I rarely yell at them, but they're really hard on themselves. I have tried to instill short-term memory mindset, that's key in the NHL, but they continue to dwell on their mistakes, and it makes their next shift worse and worse. It's like a domino effect. And I just added that in there. Do we have any tips to help them to move on from their bad shifts? I'll let you take over here, Maddie.
Yeah, so I think I probably subconsciously just glanced at this question. That's probably where I got to this. But I'm a big believer in like using reframes. And so it's just about the way you see things, how you look at a situation. Okay. And an example I like to use is like when I played hockey, I was hard on myself. I wanted to score a hat trick. I wanted to get 2 goals. If I missed a chance early, I'd be like, oh damn, now I can't get a hat trick, blah, 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 blah. But when I started to think about it like this, if I had that mindset for 55 minutes. Say I miss a chance in the first 5 minutes, then for 55 minutes, I'm playing poor me, why me? I'm rehashing the last shift. I've now just wasted all of that opportunity to go out there and take advantage of the opportunity to have in front of me. So for these players, it's good to have some type of a reset routine, maybe one word they could go back to. Maybe they just write an F on their stick and that F stands for focus. They make a mistake. They can see themselves going, spinning the wheels. They see their knob, F, focus, boom, back in the moment. Maybe they take a sip of water. Like you see goalies after they get scored on, they'll do their little circle, they're banging the posts, whatever it might be. And this is we could go a lot deeper on this. I'd be here all day, but I think to keep it simple, that's what they have to have. It's working now on that mental side of the game. How do you snap yourself out of it? It could be a snap of the fingers inside of your glove. Boom. We're not going to focus on that. We're going to focus on this. And it goes back to the mindfulness Timmy talked about before, always working on the mind, always working on being in the moment. It's such an easy thing to say, but it's a lot more difficult thing to work on. So for you as a coach, you're doing a phenomenal job, but it's going to come down to really encouraging them to work on that self-talk, stay in the moment, encourage them to let it go, work on letting it go. The last shift can't affect the next shift. We only have the moment. That's it. That's all. And I hope that answered some of your question.
Yeah, yeah. I think I got the answer out of that, Colin. That's a great. One of the things that I've always suggested. Now, I'm kind of like I'm the neutral coach. I'm the in between coach because I don't have control of a team. I don't have the connection to a team that a coach has, but I work with all the coaches and the players. And then on the other side of things, on the research side of things, like I'm constantly looking for anecdotes for things like this, even though, I'm my specialty and they call me the shooting and scoring specialist, but you cannot create any offensive opportunity unless all this other stuff is somewhat controlled or somewhat, you have some sort of way of communicating what the theme is on your team for the next game, the preparation points, all the planning and stuff like that. So that's a lot of work. My hat's off to you coaches on that. And this particular question, when it comes to feeding information to players after they've made mistakes, every practice that you have, I feel like you should take time to let the players know that you understand that there's going to be mistakes that are made. And sometimes the acronym thing, I do it all the time as well with all the players that I work with. Tons of them, like LMA, lock my arm, STP, shoot the puck. Like something that, like Maddie, that's a great thing to suggest to have that. But then coaches, you can pass a player a puck on the bench and you can say, this puck's better than the one that's out there. So next time you go out there, pass this to the ref and say, hey, can you use this puck? I'm having bad luck with that one. And normally the refs would be like, that's pretty funny, but I'll take that thing. We'll use this one. And then all of a sudden it's like you changed something in your mindset because you've helped to make a decision, whether the official takes the puck or not. It came from the coach. The coach is like, hey man, I know you're gonna make a mistake. It's gonna happen out there. And that communication or that green light to be able, whether they're a leadership player or not, they have an A or a C on their shirt, doesn't matter. If you let them know every practice that there's going to be times when they're making mistakes, it could help them to change their confidence level or elevate it or something like that. But that's a good question. Really good.
Yeah, I love that. See you, Bernsey. I want to share one quote with you that I'd love to take credit for, but I won't. And the quote goes like this. It says, what happened, happened, and it couldn't have happened any other way. And when you think about that and you really get that, it can be a powerful thing because it couldn't have happened other way. Whatever I said 2 minutes ago, I couldn't have said any other way because that's how I said it. Whatever I did yesterday, I couldn't have go back and change it. It's just not even possible. So why in the world would I ever worry about that? Why? There's no chance. So that's how I kind of look at things. And for myself, just from like a personal mindset perspective, I used to love when teams would score on us on the road in their rink and the fans would be going nuts. I kind of have this like let's go mentality. I'd kind of try to use that to not get me down, but to fire me up. And that's a hard thing to do. But when you can get there, it's like, how do you use that adversity to your advantage? That's always what I'm trying to think about, for myself, the players I work with. And I think what Tim said, they're just giving them the green light to say, hey man, we got your back. Don't worry about it. That goes so far with a young player because they always think you're mad at them. Coach is mad, dad's mad, everyone's mad. Nobody's mad, buddy. Go out there and do it again. Let's go. Get back out there. And it's like I said, for a younger player to hear that, I think it's huge. So communication, topic of the call. I think that's one of the answers to the question.
100%. I do this presentation to teams all the time about on ice success and like how you keep, maintain, and or restore the confidence level of the last shift that you just had. So one of the things that I talk about is the interruption in shift changes sometimes messes with the consistency of execution. What I mean by that is I'm a forward and it doesn't matter what line I'm on. I can't stay on the whole game. Even though I'm touching the puck, I'm getting shots. I got to get off. I got to get off because I got to restore shit. I got to restore my energy. I got to restore my mindset. I got to restore things. And how I think about that as the other guys are on the ice while I'm observing what's going on is so critical to what my success is going to be when I go out there. So if I receive 2 passes, had 1 or 2 shots, and then maybe scored a goal, but now I got to change. So in a player's mindset, like I'm sitting on the bench, I have my stick under my chin, and I'm just saying to myself, please, please, please let me have another successful shift like that when I get back on the ice. And start to register what you did to create the success, how you've communicated, and how you've performed out there. But if you had a bad shift, that's what we're talking about. It's like coaches communicating, hey, that, however they're going to send the message, or however you guys send the message to your players, it's like, hey, it's okay, man. It's okay. Go out there and just turn it around because I know you can. So this is all positive reinforcement that we're looking for when we do that. Now, one of the things that we should probably start to talk about, and I'm hoping to get some feedback from the coaches, Maddie, is I call it the 3 forms of communication during games or on the ice, and how you can work on it in practice. And these 3 forms of communication that I talk about are, number 1, and this is on ice success. This is your players on the ice, how they succeed by breaking out of the zone, getting a good transition, and whatever. So the first form of communication that we talk about is verbal. Everyone's out there saying, hey, call for the puck. Doesn't matter. You can say their name. You can, and that when you start chirping out there a lot, hey, I'm ready. And then they combine it with the other form. So major form of communication is verbal, letting someone know if you're ready, or warning them, or whatever. You're yelling out there. Second form, acoustics, noise. Remember the tap the stick on the ice, like, we call that the beaver tail. The beaver's in the water and it's trying to scare away everybody else. We call it the beaver. That's acoustical. Or smash the glass when you're posted up. Do a double tap. And then what happens is now that verbal recognition starts to connect with the acoustical one. So, like a particular player will say, hey, do a double tap. That's Billy. Billy's the only guy that does that. Hey, so now you start to recognize where your players are, what they're doing, stuff like that. And then, so you got a verbal call for the puck, you got acoustical, you're smashing your stick around, or you're doing something, some guys will skate up the ice and do a butt end tap on the glass or something, and that's more specific when the players start to get to a maturity level, when there's their life depends on it, kind of thing. And then the third one, and one of the most important ones, is the eye contact. So then if you can combine with your team and work on the 3 forms of communication, it helps them to succeed. And before you take it over, Maddie, I just want to give them one sample of eye contact communication. So here's my stick. My stick's right here. And I'm going in on a 2-on-1 with one of my partners. And my partner's, well, it doesn't matter if he's a righty or lefty. I'm on the left side. I have the ability to release this puck in a one-timer, ability to take that type of shot, one-timer. So I put my stick behind my body as I'm going towards the net. And where do you think my buddy passes the puck to? My what? My stick, my blade, because that's what he sees, the target. But I want to take a one-timer this way. So if he passes the puck to my tape, I have no chance of taking a one-timer because it's behind my body. But then I do this. Then I load up my stick before he passes the puck, and he visually looks at me and goes, shit, well, I'm not going to pass it behind you because that's not going to be a successful one-timer. But you've just showed me visually that you want a one-timer pass because you didn't have your stick on the ice. You had it loaded up. So that's one example of having a visual communication between what you want to do with the puck, even before you call for it, or you tap your stick on the ice. And those three forms are pretty important.
Yeah, I love that. That's phenomenal. I never really thought about that. And I just wanted to add one more thing to Colin's question about the players on the bench. I think one thing you can start to get them to do is just say, hey guys, in between shifts, all I want you to do is focus on your breath. Okay, just breathing in, breathing out, breathing in through the nose, out through the nose, whatever you got to do. Because when you're breathing and you're focused on your breathing, it's almost impossible to focus on anything else. That's just how the body works. That's how the mind works. You can't be breathing and focusing on your breathing and have your mind going a million miles an hour. And that's a powerful thing. And so, hey guys, that's all I want you to focus on. Or number two, talk to your line mate. What happened there? What'd you see there? What can we do differently? Get the whiteboard out, get out of your head and get into the world. Number three, get involved in the game. Get up, cheer the boys on. I used to love doing that. Let's go. Heads up. Here comes, move it up, chip it, get more verbal communication like Timmy was talking about. We have to get the world we have today. We're so involved up here in our head. We have to get out of our head and get into the world. And that's three simple ways you can start to do that. But Timmy, I didn't really have anything else. I'd like to open it up for more questions. I think that's awesome. Thank you guys for all the questions today. Those were really good ones. I appreciate everybody being here and listening.
So you know what? Let's do this. How about this? Name me a successful NHL hockey team. Any successful NHL hockey team. Name me one.
I almost said the Toronto Maple Leafs, but I thought that might get laughed out of the room. Let's say the Montreal Canadiens.
Okay, they're kind of successful in the last couple of years. Yep, that's a good one. And name me another one. Anyone put in your chat there, just name me a successful NHL hockey team.
Arizona Coyotes.
Yep. Okay, that's good. So we got two. So far we got Montreal and we got Arizona. Two good ones. Name me another one. Who's been like successful the last couple of years? Tampa's there. That's good. Tampa. Name me another one. There's one out there that's up and coming, and man, it's kind of weird. I've worked with all these teams, but Carolina, yeah, Sammy, Carolina, Penguins, Boston's. So check this out. So Montreal, Carolina, Tampa, right? Arizona, Pittsburgh, and who else did we say? We had someone else in here. We said Carolina, right? Anyways, yeah, Colorado too. Colorado. This is unbelievable. You guys are like right now. You're hitting 100%. So all these organizations you're meeting, the successful ones over the past 10 years, they all have a breathing coach. They have a separate breathing coach that helps the players to breathe. Not yoga. There's separate yoga coaches too. Chicago's one too, Eski. Yeah, Chicago's one for sure. Breathing coaches. Like these players, like they don't mandate, but when players are in stressful situations, pressure, or whether it's like on ice or off ice, what players tend to do to gain tension, to get as much as they hold their breath. We had a player in Montreal years ago that he would pass out because he would do a 60-second shift or a 50-second shift, and because he's not breathing. He's forgetting to breathe because he just is not remembering to breathe. And then when he started seeing a breathing coach, this guy got really, really good at sustaining energy and thought process. because it helps. This pastime, no matter where we are in the world, hockey is fun. It's supposed to be fun, you know. So I feel like that's one of my mantras is how much fun can I have, and how much fun can I instill in the players while they're learning to do something. Maddie, anything to wrap up?
I totally agree, man. I think we got to get back to more fun. Kids play their best when they're having fun. I got a lot of things to wrap up, but I'll keep it simple and answer that question and say one more thing I wanted to say. I think for me, I'm all about honesty. So when I'm talking to players, I'm talking to my wife, I'm talking to my kids, I'm trying to be as honest as I possibly can. I think honesty speeds things up. So I don't beat around the bush. I don't sugarcoat. I don't fluff. I just tell it the way I see it. If you want to hear it from me, great. If you don't, that's fine as well. And I do that in the most positive ways I can, but I also do it in a fair way. And I think that's effective to me, right? Players want to know that you're telling them the truth, that you're being authentic, that you're speaking from your heart. And if you're doing that and you're doing that with confidence, I truly do believe at times it doesn't even matter what you're saying. The words oftentimes don't even matter. The tonality does, the respect level you have for them does, the trust does. And that's the most important thing for me. And so that's what I would take away from this call today. How can you start being more honest with yourself? How can you start being more honest with your players? And if you care about them and they care about you, it's all going to work out just fine. But I think we start worrying about stepping on toes, our egos get involved. That's when things start to go a little bit haywire. This is why I've always worked well with Timmy. There's no BS. There's no fluff. Hey, Maddie, you want to do this? Hey, Timmy, what time is that? This is how it works. And we're off to the frickin' races. So, Timmy, I love you. Thanks for having me on today. I thought that was absolutely awesome. That hour flew by. Somehow my kids upstairs were quiet. So that's a beautiful thing. And thank you all for being here today.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Maddie. We'll let everybody go here, fellas. Stay tuned for the next one. We'll have a different theme, obviously, when we'll get to the skill side of things. Yonks, everybody. Nice to see you guys.
Bye, guys.
See you guys again, man. Great job, guys. See you later.